Yellow new house alert, but wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind for a while with how people perceive the cost of computers. Computers really should not be expensive, but you'll see people on, internet forums, just kind of general consensus across like YouTube, Reddit, whatnot, will be that, oh my gosh, computers are so expensive. You see it a lot in the console versus computer wars. um, People will be like, well, my console is only $600. So therefore, your gaming PC, which, entry level is about $1,000, computers are way more expensive. I should just get this piece of crap proprietary console and not get an actual computer. Let me tell you why that is wrong. It's because you're comparing the newest gen to the newest gen, which I mean, you would think would be, the accurate way to do comparisons. You should do comparisons against generations. If we're going to like test two cars to see which is the fastest, obviously the more modern car is going to be faster than like a Model T. But in the day, Model T was faster than, probably something. I was going to say a horse, but I don't even think that was true. So in that case, the older model was also better. But computers. So people always be thinking that computers are expensive. Oh, you have to spend this $1,000. No, you're wrong. And I want to show. Look at these guys. Oh, the camera is kind of broken. Look at these guys. I have three of them. You know how much I paid for all three and their charging cables? $150. Each of these was $50. Each of these little computers. You can steal the Windows key. I don't care. I'm running Linux. So each of these little computers was $50. So you're thinking, oh, well, they must suck. Well, they actually don't. I have one of them plugged in, and I have, it's running a full 1080 display over DisplayPort. That is kind of a weird quirk. These don't have HDMI, but DisplayPort's better anyways. Look at LS CPU, and we have 4 cores. It's an i5 4th gen. It's at nearly 3 gigahertz, 2.9 gigahertz. So it's not insanely fast, but like it was $50. If you look at LS Mem, has put the camera down. LS Mem, we have 8 gigs of RAM. Storage, I believe, is like 128 gigs. I guess I don't have that pulled up. I guess we could pull it up. And then over here, LSBLK. Yeah, well, 120 gigs, I guess. So 120 gigs of storage, 8 gigs of RAM, 4 CPUs, which is plenty for like most of the things you're going to be doing. So everyone's like, oh my gosh, computers are expensive. Obviously, it's not a gaming computer. I concede that point. But a lot of people, even, when they're buying little workstations for work, for example, they go out and spend, multiple hundreds of dollars. It was 50 freaking dollars on eBay, dude. Go buy something used. These are ThinkCenters. When I was looking for cheap computers, there were so many ThinkCenters out there. There's also Dell makes a device that's about this big. I believe they call them Optiplex. Super cheap. And, everyone in the comments would be like, oh my gosh, I want to use those for my home lab. They're all going to sell out. It's like, no, they're not, man. I mean, like eventually they'll sell out. But not soon, because you know why? A ton of businesses buy these because you can backpack them on the back of a monitor. You can get this little like sheet metal case and backpack it on the back of the monitor. And then, a vendor will, buy these and then sell them to like school districts and to office buildings. And so one client will buy like 200 of these and then replace all 200 at the same time. And normally you just write that as a loss, but they're like, hey, you know what? We'll get a couple dollars for these. We don't need to, take the complete loss. We'll get, $50 in my example for each of these back. The eBay listing that I was in like the last 10 of them, but they had sold like a couple hundred of them before I got in there to buy them. These boys are going to be going actually, for my business, I'm sending them down to some clients so we can do some network monitoring off of them. And that's the thing, when you're running Linux, obviously the superior OS, which, like jokes aside, like you're the Linux desktop, when, Windows bad, but like genuinely Linux just kind of works now and Windows just doesn't work anymore. I'm running Endeavor OS. I would highly recommend it. Probably the easiest to use one, but you still get all the heavy lifting power of it, technically being Arch Linux, but it's a GUI installer, super easy. Then I think Arch is just overall easier to use than Debian based because you have more packages, so you spend less time like adding PPAs, all that stuff. So I do actually genuinely recommend Endeavor OS for beginners, and it's also currently what I use. To throw my credentials out there, I have installed Linux and actually Artix which is like a Linux fork, because you don't have to use systemd. I was using S6 instead of that systemd. I have installed it from the command line, so I'm a real Linux user. But now another point, now they're kind of done with these guys, which just buy cheap computers. Holy cow, buy used. I want to show you another cheap used computer. This boy. Now this boy was less cheap, I'll grant you that, but it is very powerful. Well, I mean, it is. I was going to say, well, maybe it's not, because it is older hardware, but it's relatively powerful. You see how I have two CPU heat sinks? It has two separate CPUs, each at 12 cores, 24 threads. So this has 48 threads in it. Let me go to a bigger camera view. It has 48 threads in it. It's a chonky boy. It has 72 gigs of RAM, and yes, I bought that. Well, technically, I bought it right before the RAM shortage. This is DDR3 ECC low voltage RAM, and the stuff that's out of stock is DDR5. So just buy old, and it's still cheap. All 72 gigs of RAM was like $32. Each CPU was like $10. The motherboard was like $50. That GPU is technically free because I got it in a deal with this monitor. Either I can say this monitor is $150 or that GPU is $150. They're each $75. I don't know. But you can buy that GPU for about $100 now. It's a GTX 1070. And then I have a Dell. You can't see it really because of the glare, but there is a HBA card going down here. There's, let's see, 6 times 4, 24 terabytes of spinner storage. That, grant you, is kind of expensive, but it's also 24 terabytes. Storage seems to be at about $10 a terabyte. Buy refurbished off of eBay again. Stop buying new. Here. So you might think, and then it has like 4 NICs. We'll finish up this spec sheet, and then we'll go on to why storage is cheap and should also be cheap. But we have 4 quad NICs on here. I mean, the CPUs and everything are from 2012, so they're missing some newer features. But this is an awesome home labbing machine, and realistically, I mean, even with storage, and case and everything, it costs like roughly $450, which is still cheaper than a console. And this boy can run some VMs with 72 gigs of RAM and 48 cores. You just keep like loading on VMs, and you just don't run out of space. Mostly RAM is your main constraint when you're doing VMs. But anyway, to the point of storage and why storage should be cheap and why, it is cheap, why you need to be buying it for cheap. I'll tell you why. So, storage cheap because data centers are friends buying all their RAM. They also bought all the hard drives, but they bought them like 5-10 years ago. And so now they have all these spinners like that I have in that computer down there. They bought them and they threw them in their servers. It was great. Everyone was happy. But in a data center, the 1% of drives that fail or something, when you have a couple thousand hard drives, 1% is still a lot, or even 0.5% across 1,000. It's still a lot of your hard drives, and it would be much more than 1,000 as well. You just have like aisles and aisles. Very expensive. And so what they do is they'll have a bunch of hard drives just kind of sitting in the office waiting they'll get the alert like, ooh, the drive died, and then they'll walk down the aisle, go and replace the drive. And so these drives probably actually were never spinning in a server. They were just sitting there waiting for another drive to die so they could go be replacements. So these are the replacements, pre-replacement. So they've never been used effectively. They're brand new, right? And that's pretty awesome. So you're basically buying brand new drives, and the data center goes to upgrade, let's say, to SSDs or just faster, because these are only like 5,200 RPM or something. They're not the full 7,200 that you'd see on maybe your more modern hard drives. So, I mean, they are slow, but you're throwing them in RAID effectively 5 is what I have them in. So you do get to add some of your speeds together. And also it's just for mass data storage. Like most of that is holding GIS data for the state I live in, because that's like 11 terabytes. Because there's a bunch of LiDAR data and cool stuff like that. Maybe I'll do a video on GIS data because that's pretty cool. But yeah, now they're, let's say, upgrading to faster hard drives, upgrading to solid state hard drives. And so they need to get rid of their spares because they don't have the primary of that same type that they'll need a spare for to replace. And so then they sell them all on eBay for cheap. It's like $10 a terabyte. So I know I got 24 terabytes times 10, $240 for a ton of storage. And then you put it in RAID 5. And again, then you lose some storage because it's RAID 5, right? You have redundancy. Technically, it's not RAID 5, it's Z-RAID 0 or whatever, because you use ZFS. We're in the modern age, 2026, use ZFS. But yeah, so anyways, computers are cheap. Stop making them expensive. You nerds, buy cheap computers because they're still good. Just run better OSs, run better software, and then the cheap computers still live. All right, well, have fun.